Hello, everyone. Dr. Ames here. This time I'd like to talk to you about some of the stereotypes that are out there about gay people. This relates to the self awareness activity 12.2, and these are basically true or false questions. These are things that the author talks about considerably in the course of the text and doesn't always tell us the answers, but they do provoke good discussion and they help us get to the bottom of this discussion. So, number one, true or false? You can always tell gays by the way they act, dress, and talk. Well, this is certainly false. Now, we have extremes of behavior in any group of people, and in fact, in people in general. And people at the either end of the continuum of very little behavior to a whole lot of behavior do tell us something sometimes, and maybe you can figure it out occasionally. For the most part, this is false. Uh, you cannot tell because the greatest amount of gay people out there have hidden their identities. They're in the closet, so to speak, as the phrase goes today. Uh, Number two, true or false? Gay persons tend to influence young people to become gay. Well, this is certainly false. And again, this is one of the most vicious stereotypes out there about gay people. It's a widely held belief amongst those who have stereotypical thinking, but there's no research whatsoever to support this. In fact, the research tells us that this is just flat out not true. Um, Number three, true or false? The American Psychological Society, the APA, takes the position that gays are mentally disturbed and they need therapy. Well, this is also false. Um, this was a position of the APA earlier in the 20th century. Um, and the APA has changed its position on many things, including all sorts of conditions of mental health and so forth. And we have quite a history also of very similar stereotypical thinking there. But no, this is also false. Number four, true or false? With the proper therapy and motivation, gays can become heterosexuals. This is absolutely false. What we're really talking about here is conversion therapy. Conversion therapy is dangerous, it's harmful, it's considered torture by some, and it absolutely doesn't work. It's a false belief that you can change something in people that's biological. And that's the problem with people who believe in gay conversion therapy. Generally, it's a supported and it comes out of a fundamentalist religious belief. And so, really, it is one of those things that you have to constantly fight against. It's still out there, and there still are many people who believe in that sort of thing. Number five, true or false? Most studies indicate that gay couples have difficulty raising normal children. This is also not true, and we have plenty of contemporary research to show that it's not. But people are still resistant in positions of power, and in many states, um, gay couples aren't even allowed to adopt children. So it just depends on where you're at. But no, this is not true either. In fact, we have much research today um, that a couple generations of gay couples have been raising quite normal children. Uh, Number six, true or false? If a person has one or two sexual experiences with someone of the same sex, he or she is gay. This is also false. Um, One or two experiences is not necessarily abnormal according to psychologists. And psychologists indeed do tell us that some people do experiment. So it doesn't absolutely mean someone is gay. It might mean that, but it also doesn't necessarily prove anything. So that one we would have to say is generally false. Uh, Number eight, true or false? Gay persons are protected from workplace discrimination throughout the United States. This is absolutely false. At the federal level, the US government, there are no protections for gay people. And the slim protections that we had recently, in recent, the Obama administration and Clinton administration before that and so forth, were gradually increasing and expanding the definition in our EEOC, our Title VII of the Civil Rights Law, and to include people, gay persons and so forth, and people of different sexual identities. That has since, even now in the government, been struck down by the current administration, but we never even had a formal law at any point. And so the little protections that they did have federally came from executive orders, which did not have necessarily the same weight of law. And certainly now, there is no protection federally. Now, there are some states that have produced some protection, but we cannot say that this blanket statement here is false. It really is not the truth. Let's talk about some more generalized stereotypes about gay people. Gay people cluster in certain occupations. And so what is the stereotypical thinking on that? I think most people would say, gay people tend to be hairstylists, or they tend to be fashion designers, or they're all, dancers. All dancers are gay people. In fact, any job that is thought of as somewhat feminine often gets the gay label. But it's really a stereotype. Certainly there are gay people in all of those industries and doing those jobs. And they may be more out in the open, and they may be out of the closet, so to speak. And so they are expressing themselves. And so they're getting noticed that way. But that doesn't mean that that's where most of the gay people work and so forth. Not everybody can be a hair designer and a fashion designer and so forth, right? Gay people are no different than everyone else. They're spread across industries and careers and so forth. Now, this one here, that may be that gay people are somewhat found in some stereotypical occupations, but it really is because they have come out more publicly. Here, this one here, the second one, people who associate with gays are probably gay themselves. This is a really old stereotype that goes way back in American culture, and it's absolutely not true. You've probably had associated with lots of gay people and may never have known it. Or you may have known it and had gay friends, and you find out they're just like other friends. And so, no, people associate with gays do not become gay no more than gay people make children become gay. That's not how it works. Gays are security risk. Oh, this was a big deal a couple of generations ago. In the 1950s, no gay person could get a job in the CIA or FBI. It was always assumed back in those times that if someone was to find out that you were gay, they could use that as leverage to make you spy or use it as blackmail against you to get you to do something. So therefore, you were a risk security-wise. But that's not true. And no one believes that anymore. Here's another one. Gay persons don't have lasting normal relationships. That's simply not true. Gay people want a long-lasting normal relationship in their sense of what that is as much as anyone else. They have the same challenges as any other couples, probably more, I would bet, because of the other layer of their lives and so forth. And so probably more challenges than any heterosexual couple. But at the same time, gay people are developing extensive networks of personal support, friends, family, allies, and so forth, as they would call them, people who support them and are not afraid to associate with them and help them further their causes. Gay men act feminine and lesbians act masculine. That's another old stereotype that goes way back. Sure, some men do. Some gay men do act feminine and some lesbians do act masculine. All behavior is on a continuum for no matter what aspect of human behavior you're looking at. There are always the extremes at one end of the continuum versus the other. We just happen to notice that gay men at one end of the extreme of behavior are acting feminine, and that lesbians at one end of the extreme end of the continuum of behavior are acting masculine. But that in no way should imply that all lesbians are masculine and all gay men are feminine. It's just simply not true. But that's how stereotypes work, as we've talked about. A stereotype is a judgment applied to a whole group of certain population, a whole group of people. People lose their complete individual identities, and they're all acting the same. And when they don't act that way, we think that maybe they're some exception, or it's just some chance thing that's happening. This is a real tough one here for a lot of gay people. Gay sex is immoral, and gay persons are promiscuous. That is no more true than heterosexuals. Um, and so this is really the idea that gay sex is immoral. You have to really search your own religious beliefs generally to see how you are influenced by that. Because generally, if we believe very fundamentally, if we're very conservative religiously, we might feel that way. Um, and so that's where a lot of that comes from. And literal interpretation of scripture and so forth does sort of lend to that. Um, and because you think gay sex might be immoral at the same time, then you just assume that all gay people have to be promiscuous. Well, it's probably exactly the opposite if research is any indicator of what we do know. And that's the thing, because the great majority of gay people are not out of the closet. We really don't know as much as we can, or what that we could. I'm certainly no expert on this behavior, but I like to think that I have an open mind and that I'm willing to listen. I think that's a good start with understanding any type of diversity. This one here, gay persons are a bad influence on children. Very similar to the one that, oh, if children are around a gay person, they're going to become gay. I remember my own mother, who was very fundamentally Christian, at one time mentioning, I forget how the conversation came up, because I think it was because she found out I was teaching cross-cultural and was asking me what it was about. And I said, oh, I talk about all sorts of different diversity. And she said, well, wouldn't you be worried if your kids had a gay teacher? And I go, Mom, I'm sure they probably already have. I'm sure I have. And so what? But her conservative religious beliefs really did prevent her from having an open mind about that. And she was just absolutely convinced. But she was from another generation. And so we also have to keep that in mind, that we really do have to try and be understanding to all sides to the best of our abilities. Now, a lot of these stereotypes and these really powerful ones are about things that are part of our culture. And so they become widespread beliefs. Everybody is saying these sorts of words and phrases. And whether it's about ethnicity, or whether it's gay people, or whatever it's about, the stereotypical, you always can recognize that behavior, because it is part of the world around us and we grow up in it. Um, so people feel threatened by gay couples because of firm beliefs in traditional gender and sex roles. Those firm beliefs in traditional gender and sex roles come from our religious background in this country, and from the immigrants who brought their religious background with them. And so again, we go back to the notion that the more fundamentalist and conservative the beliefs, the more likely you are to hold stereotypes, and not just about ethnicity, but also about gay people. Certainly, culturally, Americans are very uncomfortable if they've never met what they know as a real gay person, or never had a gay friend or a gay coworker or anything. They simply do not know how to act around gay people. And so it really says more about them than it does the other person. Um, that's why we get cross-culturally educated, so we do know how to act. What you do is you act normal. Um, and this idea that, oh, maybe they'll come on to me, that's a terrible stereotype that's out there. Um, they're not going to come on to you any more than a straight person's going to come on to you. People are people. But certainly, probably even less, because they're worried about people coming after them. There's so much hostility. There's strong emotion associated with the stereotypical thinking against gay people. So maybe they'll be jealous of my friendship with the person they're attracted to. Okay, if you lack self-confidence that much, or something like that bothers you, then it really talks about you, I would say. Um, there is no need for this sort of thinking. This is actually very petty. Maybe I'll get AIDS. Now, this one's a little more complicated, because it did seem like AIDS, when it first came out, was going through the gay communities, and certainly it was. But it rapidly found out that anybody could get AIDS, and you could get it from more than just means of transition. But we know what those means of transmission are. And you're not going to get it from casual contact and being around someone who has AIDS. I've been around people with AIDS before, and I've never contracted it. Um, and so this is a really scary sort of stereotype, because stereotypes are connected to emotion, and this one is connected to fear. But no, in normal relations with people, you don't have to worry about this. Um, I need to show disapproval. Again, a cultural factor, so no one will think I'm gay. Well, why would people think you're gay anyway? And why do you think that people would think that? Maybe it's time for a little introspection there. And so, if you're thinking that you need to show disapproval, you probably harbor some stereotypical beliefs, and maybe you should analyze that. And then, if this, of course, is by men who are very mixed up. This last one here, it bothers me that lesbians don't need men. Um, okay. I'm not sure how to really respond to that particular stereotype. It is out there, and it is in research, and it exists. There are just those men who just lack enough self-confidence, self-esteem, that they think that they ought to be able to be successful with every woman they meet. I don't know. It just seems a little crazy to me that they think that they're competing with lesbians for the affections of women. Um, haven't they realized that those lesbians are not looking for men? So, I think a lot of stereotypes do get a little absurd, but some of them are so serious. It's far beyond being absurd. It's very dangerous. And so, if we're aware of the stereotypes, then we can confront them in ourselves, and then we can also speak up when we're in those situations where we can be an ally. Okay, folks, that's all I want to talk about this time. I'll talk to you again soon.